All right, so good evening. I see that you're here with me, Micaela. How are you today? Is everything okay?
Good night, teacher. Yes, it's a good. Well, it was a good day.
Great,
Thank you.
that's good to know. Great, Micaela, that's always good to know. Now you're welcome. So let's start the class with you, all right? We're going to cover the lesson that we have to cover today, and we are going to practice a little bit afterwards. Perhaps your partners joined a little bit before, that's why no one is here. It's just that I finished my previous class a little bit late, all right? They had some presentations, and I just joined the class, all right, just before you joined. So perhaps your partners were here, but they were not able actually to join the class as I was in a different meeting. So I'm going to try to send a message, all right, in a few seconds. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to Pearson and I want to see how everything is going. Remember, please, Michaela, that we have until tonight, 11:59 p.m. to finish with the assignments. And we got until Sunday, also 11:59 p.m. to finish the second quiz. All right, as you can see here, this is how you're working on. Some of you have been working more, and some of you perhaps were not finishing all the assignments. But let's try to finish by today. All right, and also the quiz. Everything is done on my side on Pearson. I want to know if you have any questions about the platform, Michaela, or anything before we can start with the next lesson.
Oh, well, I am not. Uh, well, I didn't have time to finish yet, but until now, was clear to me.
Good, that's great. Again, remember, you're going to have some hours or some time to finish the rest of it. So if it's clear so far, it's perfect. All right, then let's try to have some extra time after we finish the class so that you can finish everything. All right, but thanks for letting me know. So I believe that that's it with Pearson. Again, everything that was supposed to be assigned is already assigned. So we are only going to go directly to the lesson that we need to cover today before we can, let's say, work on the practice that we have for today. That is going to be another debate, actually. So we're going to practice the lesson. We're going to write some examples as always. We're going to see if everything is clear. And if it is, one more time, we are going to start with the extra practice for today. And that's going to be it. All right. As always, please, I'm sharing the a link because we're going to be writing some examples about it. And you can find it in the chat. All right. And there you go. Good. It is in the chat now. So let's go to the presentation itself. We finished with imperatives for reported speech, right? You also work on that one where you wrote some examples, so that is done. Now we are going to see relative clauses. This is really interesting. This can be also kind of short, but it depends on how you're going to be able to understand the contents in this lesson. It's not a long lesson, but it can be sometimes confusing, but I believe that you're going to be able to get it without, all right, just going around the topic. So let's talk about it. First, let's try to understand these words. And I'm going to start with you, please, Karen. Karen, what comes to your mind when you read relative clauses? Perhaps you already work with this lesson, but what can you tell me about it?
Well, I don't. I with the name, I don't know about the structure or about the meaning of the relative clauses. Maybe it's some clauses in I don't know in that we use, but in I don't know in the exact meaning or what is a relative clause.
Good. Let's try to put it in this way, Karen. Let's try to work in this way. And it's great that you tell me because actually this is work with a different name in on Pearson, I believe, that it's adjective clauses. All right. Now, if I tell you adjective clauses or simply in singular, adjective clause, an adjective clause, how can you explain what a possible adjective clause is, Karen?
Yeah, well, an adjective, I don't remember if we use an adjective to describe an object. Maybe, well, describe, I don't know, the form, or in case of the people, describe also the form and the feelings, maybe.
Good, that's correct. So if that is an adjective, and remember, it's not going to be only an object. Actually, it can be called an object, right? But it can also describe a subject. So in other words, it can describe people, it can describe things, right? So that's the first idea. Good. The second thing, then, if that is an adjective, what is an adjective clause? What is a clause? What comes to your mind when you read clause?
Maybe it's like a rule that we need to know when we use, I don't know if involve all the adjective, but maybe some more specific adjective. So we need to use an adjective and some clause before or after the adjective.
All right, so we're close to that one. Good. We're going to verify that one, Karen, now. Okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. I'm going with you now, Lucia. What do you say? What else can you complement? Remember that you can change this to adjective clause. Okay, but let's try to expand a little bit more this word, clause or clauses. What is a clause? What do you feel that a clause is, Lucia? And what an adjective clause can be?
Sorry, Professor. A clause could be, maybe could be also a kind of sentence. Yeah. And
Yes.
it is relative because it's not something direct. Something like, for example, which, or which, or when you want to explain. Yeah, I can understand better in like in examples. Like, for example, Maria was the girl who baked the cookies or something like that. And yeah, for me, it's something like that.
Exactly, it's correct. A clause, it's going to be a dependent or independent sentence, right? So it's an idea. It's a complete idea, but it's dependent or independent, right? Because you need another clause or you need another object to make or to give sense to that idea. And relative here, and yes, and instead of relative, that's why we can change this to adjective, because it's the same, okay? Relative clause and adjective clause. If you say that it's an adjective clause, then you're talking about an independent or a dependent sentence that is going to describe a word. Okay, so an adjective clause, it's going to be just an adjective. It's just that it's a big adjective. Okay, instead of big, you're going to say what you said, right, Lucia? And the adjective is who. All right, I'm going to change your example. All right, it can be, right, the girl who baked the cookies last year. Okay, so who baked the cookies last year? All of that is only one adjective that is describing who or what? The girl. All right, so just understand that in that way. If you understand it, again, this is going to be very easy. An adjective clause or a relative clause is an adjective that is composed of an independent or dependent sentence that has one word at the beginning. That can be which, right? That can be who, that can be that. You have more options, but we're going to pay attention to those first, okay? Who, which, that. All right, easy again. We're only going to use big adjectives. That's today's lesson, big adjectives. Let's work with this one, and it's similar to what you were doing, Lucia, but I'm going to work this with you, Micaela. Let's read this slide, please, Micaela, and try to work on the exercise.
Okay, let's do the following. Turn these two sentences into one. That's the house. The house is very expensive. That's the house that is very expensive, maybe?
Correct. Exactly. It is correct. There is a more formal way to say that, but what you said is correct. That is the house. You eliminate the house because you don't need to repeat the same word. Now you're going to give an adjective to the house, right? What house? How do you know what house you are talking about? Because you're going to give a description. And what words do you need to describe the house? Here you can use which, or here you can use what. Which is formal, that is informal, right? That's the house, as you said, that is very expensive, right? So correct, good. Let's only repeat this word, please, Micaela. This is going to be this. Remember, this is more like z, and this is e. Let's repeat that one, please.
This.
This, exactly. Good, thank you. Very good. Now, that's one. The next one is similar, if it's not the same. But let's work on this one with you, please, Karen. How will you join these two sentences into one, only eliminated the repeated word and adding the relative clause to have the adjective clause?
Okay, he listened to the song that is in French and Spanish.
Correct. And just like that, okay? It's as simple as that. The only thing, again, that you do, you eliminate the repeated word or words, and you change that word to the connector that is going to be the relative word. That, again, can be who, which, or that. That works with anything, but remember that the most formal word here is going to be which, right? So both work very well. He listened to the song, which is in French and Spanish. Or he listened to the song that is in French and Spanish. Okay, both work and both are correct. Okay, this is the introduction. Now let's understand everything by learning some details. Okay, this is what we need to identify. And let's also read this one with you, please, Karen. All right, we're going to read this slide with you, please.
Okay, adjective relative clauses. When you want to identify nouns, use an adjective relative clause. He is the man. Which one? He is the man who was in the party last night. That is the house. Which one? That is the house which is very big.
Thank you very much, Karen. So one more time. We call these adjective clauses or relative clauses because we're giving a description about something that is not clear. So again, the man, which one, right? What man are you talking about? So the man who was in the party last night. This is an adjective because it's describing the man. What house? Which one, right? The house which is very big. And again, this is an adjective that is describing the house. So in other words, adjective clauses, relative clauses are giving information, sometimes extra information, sometimes vital information about an object that can be, again, can be a person, can be a thing, can be an animal, can be anything. All right, anything that you can think of can be described with relative or adjective clauses. Okay, so we're still working on the introduction. And here we don't have a lot of definitions because the only thing we have to do here is practicing and understanding why and how we are giving this extra information. Let's keep going. And this is yours, please, Lucia.
Okay, which, who, whom, whose, which, I like the car, they are driving the car, I like the car, which or that they are driving. Who, I saw the person studied with us last month. I saw the person who, that, studied with us last month.
Thank you very much, Lucia. So here I'm showing you these two, and I'm going to show you also the rules, but this is not going to be the main content for this lesson, okay? In this course, later on in the I believe it's the third or the fourth week, you're going to see this with me, okay? These are adjective clauses, but for objects. And these are adjective clauses for subjects, okay? But you're going to see, again, the difference is very subtle. It can be confusing, but I'm going to show you the difference, okay? But as long as these two, all right, which and who are clear for you in this class, then it's done, all right? If I'm going to show you this one, and if you have some doubts, I'm going to try to solve those doubts today, all right? But if not, remember that this is not going to be the main topic, and we're still going to have extra classes to cover this, actually, this specific word, and also this specific word, but working with objects, and whose that it's something extra. All right, but again, we're going to pay attention to these two first. So the rule is easy, right? What is the rule? If you have an object, if you have anything that is not a person, you use which. If you have a person or a group of people, who? Easy, right? In both cases, you can use that. But with me, to practice correctly, you're not going to use that now. Okay, you're going to avoid using that because it's informal and because it's easy to use that every time. Okay, you're only going to use which and who. Okay, easy again, right? Not people, which, people, who. Now, what is something that you need to take into account, because you're going to work in the first examples, girls, is that you work with things that are too general, are not clear. If you have here something that is very specific, you are not going to be able to use these adjective clauses. And if you want to use them, you need to use different rules. For example, commas. Okay, but for this lesson, please, girls, don't use that one because we're going to have another lesson to talk about extra information. Now, this information that we have here is vital, so we are not going to use commas. And in order not to use commas, you have to use a very general object or a very general person here. For example, the car, the person, the teacher, the party, the house, the computer, right? What computer? We don't know what you're talking about. Or you can say a car. Okay, so saying the car and a car are sometimes too general because we don't know what you're talking about. All right, so in the examples that you're going to write now, please, only the first set of examples like this, give me a, let's write 4 examples in total, okay? But only this part, please. Only this part, yes. I mean, you only need to write 4 examples, 2 examples with which only this part. Don't write the adjective clause yet, and only this part. Don't write the adjective clause yet. All right, and please try to locate the object at the end of the sentence. Because again, it can be in the middle, but the rule is going to be a little bit different, and that can be confusing if we're not ready yet. Okay, so 4 examples, please. 2 of them with objects and 2 of them with people, and they have to be very general so that we don't know what you're talking about, so that later on we are going to give our description with these adjective clauses. Okay, let me know please if you have any questions before working on that first set of examples. All right, let's do it then, please. Again, they are very short. You can write if you want longer, but the idea is that this object or this person, they are located at the end of the sentence, and they are very general. They don't have to be specific, and it has to be unclear what you're talking about or who are you talking about. All right, so let's do it, please. Let's have only 3 minutes to write those 4 sentences, very short sentences. Let me use the timer. All right, so please, let's do it. 3 minutes, 2 with this, 2 with which, and 2 with who.
Professor, in the case of animals, is the same as objects, right?
Yes, grammatically speaking, it's also going to be with which. It's going to be treated as objects, grammatically speaking, Lucia.
Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. So we check in one more minute, please. Remember, 2 examples with which, 2 with who, but only this short example. All right, the next part is going to be with me, one by one, and then we're going to connect the ideas together. Okay, so let's start the 1 minute now. All right, so let's take a look at what you got, and we're going to work on the second part together. Actually, as I work with you, with the first one, for example, I'm going to work with you, Karen. Now we're going to work the second part together, all right? And also something important here, and I'm going to tell you now, it's going to be that we need something better general. For example, her and him are pronouns. I believe that, yes, it's not clear what we're talking about, but something that I did not mention that it's important, but I'm going to do it now, it's that we need nouns. All right, remember that adjectives can only describe nouns. All right, adjectives cannot describe pronouns. So they are going to be next to a noun, right? In this case, this is an object pronoun, her. So we need to change that to any type of reference to a female that it's general. So you can try to change this again to I ran with the girl, or that girl, or just the girl, or a girl, or a woman, or you can mention a profession if you want. All right, with the professor, and we're going to suppose that it's her because of further explanation. Okay, so what do you want to use here, Karen? We need to change the pronoun to a noun. What could it be?
I need to write again in the Google Classroom, or I only talk.
Yeah, tell me. I'm going to change it for you.
Okay, I run with the girl.
Okay, let's use the girl. And again, just because we need nouns for the adjective next to it. And what about number 3? What can it be instead of him?
He played with. I can say with a friend.
Okay, yes, because it's not clear. It's also valid. All right, later on, perhaps according to the context, we're going to see if we are going to change this a friend to the friend. But a friend works good because it's also unclear what you're talking about. Okay, good. Now, the next part, let's do it now, Karen. What description can you give me about the girl? And you have to use the girl as the subject in this description that you give me about it or about her. So the girl, what can you tell me about her?
Has long hair.
Okay. Anything that you can tell, anything that you can think of is correct. Okay, because any description is valid. So good, has long hair. There you go. And one more time, we're talking about the girl, right? What about number 2? It's going to be the song. So what can you tell me about the song? What is a characteristic that you can mention about it?
The song that is in Spanish.
Okay, good. And remember, we're not going to use that yet because
Ah.
only a sentence would be the song is in Spanish.
Okay.
All right, because in a usual sentence, right, we don't use that, but you're going to use that later on. All right, so good. The song is in Spanish. This is one sentence, right? So very good. What about the last one? A friend. Oh, sorry, we have two more. What about a friend? What can you tell me about a friend? We're going to say that friend.
The friend you uses glasses.
Okay. And this, instead of this one, perhaps you can try to change that verb to wears.
Yes.
All right, good. And the last one, what can you tell me about the car?
The car is new and red, and the color red.
Okay, yes, and right. It's if you use that as an adjective, it's enough if you say right. Good. Okay, so again, this is just for practicing because later on we're going to see more complex things. But if this is going to be clear, then everything is going to be clear. All right, so as I'm checking, please, your partner's exercises, Karen, now give me the connection of those four ideas. Okay, using who and using which, and that's going to be it. All right, so again, just go to down below and you have to write the result of the two complete sentences into one as you did at the beginning, but remember, we're only going to use who or which. We are not going to use that. Okay, good. Let's do it, please. Now I'm going with you and let me see. No, Seren is not here. No, she's not here. Lucia, let's read yours, please, now.
Sorry. I found the keys. I was invited to the festival. She met the girl. She discovered to the guilty.
All right. Only one this word. How do you read this word one more time?
Sorry. She met the girl.
Met, exactly. Just that one. And here in this case, let me do that one. It's going to be mainly when you use discover that you mention directly the object or the person without any type of preposition. All right. So she discovered who the guilty was, or she discovered the lying. All right. But mainly it's going to be directly the word. All right. And let's do it now. What can you tell me about the keys? In the first one, the word is the keys. So what characteristic can you mention about it, Lucia?
The keys you.
But first only about the object, and the object has to be the subject of your sentence. Then we're going to work with the object as the object of the sentence. Now it has to be the subject.
And also, Professor, for the description of that object, we can use verbs. For example, the keys you lost the last month.
Yes, that is correct. But there, keys is the object of the sentence that you're telling me because you lost the keys, right? So that's the sentence, you lost the keys, and they are objects, and that's correct. But we're going to do that later on because the rule is not, it's the same for which, but it's different for who. And to analyze the two together, we're going to see that later on. All right, so it's possible to do what you're telling me. But first, we're going to use the keys as the subject. It means that you have to use the verb immediately after the keys here. And then you're going to mix the two words. So any sentence that in which the keys are the subject of the sentence, Lucia, how could it be?
The keys are new.
Good. And the description again is valid. Later on, we're going to work with more complex things. So far, it's more than enough. Good. The keys are new. The next one, the same logic, please. Lucia, you're talking about the festival. So here, our subject has to be the festival. So what can you tell me about it again? Any verb that you can think, any complement.
The festival is in Belgium.
Okay, good. Let me use that one and let me use capital letter. Good. And Volt. What about the girl? What can you tell me about the girl?
Um, uh, uh, the girl artist of the theater.
All right, but in that case, remember, or perhaps I'm not understanding that one. Here we need a verb, right? What is the verb that you're telling me?
The girl is the main actress of the. How can I say obra? Teacher, sorry.
Play. This play.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Good. There you go. Perfect. And the last one, please. The guilty.
The guilty is Francisco Perez.
Okay. Good. Now here again, we're going to have some grammatical things, but we're going to work with that one. The guilty. All right. What? All right, there you go. All right, here they want to propose a different thing, and also with guilty, because when you say I am guilty, this is going to be like an adjective, all right? But we're going to check that later on. So far, we're going to work with that one, the culprit, it says, but we're going to just better that one by saying the guilty one or the guilty person, right? The guilty one or the guilty person, because usually, again, guilty, when you say you are guilty, it's more used as an adjective. All right, that's why they are giving that idea. But let's keep it that way. It's going to work for our exercise.
And
Let's
also, Professor, for example,
yes.
in a trial, guilty could be a subject, right?
They use it. Actually, it's used more of an adjective. They say yes, that the guilty is going to get into well, to talk about a testimony and so on. But in most of the times, and I'm not sure actually about that one, about the word they exactly use in the jury, but I believe that they still use only guilty as an adjective. It's just that they are not mentioning the noun because it's implied, but they are still using guilty as an adjective.
Okay.
All right, so that's why they say the one that it's guilty, but they are supposing that they are talking about a person or again someone that is there. So let's work with this one, please. Now the same with you, Lucia. Let's now join all those words, and if you get, for example, here again, you're going to have a correction, but you can change the guilty to the guilty one or the guilty person or the person in charge, or if you want, also you can use that word that they was suggesting, the culprit. That's a possibility, but you see what is going to be better there when you mix the two ideas. All right,
Also,
let's do it.
Better the
Yes.
criminal.
Yes, but if you say
Right.
also the criminal, it's not going to be, of course, yeah, actually, yes. If you say, of course, the criminal is going to be guilty, right? But the meaning is going to be a little bit different. But whatever word you believe that works here, it's going to be good. In this case, of course, they can be synonyms, but the meaning, of course, changes a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so the one that you believe works better, it's going to be good. Great, let's do it, please. We check that one. And I'm going to finish with you, please, Michaela. Let's do the same. Let's read your examples first.
I want the dress. We like the cookies. He is the student. They meet the teacher.
Very good. Let's also repeat, please, this word, Michaela. This is going to be, if it's past, it's going to be like a only, met.
They met the teacher.
Good. Great. Okay, they are good. Let's work the same, please, Michaela, with you. What can you tell me about the dress over here?
Could be the dress, well, could be we saw a dress in the garage sale, maybe.
Okay, it's good. The example is good, but here we are first going to use the dress as the subject, okay? But later on, we're going to work with the dress as objects because we have different rules for that one, okay?
Okay.
For example, we use prepositions before, and we have different rules for which and for who as object. So here, just to work this first part, let's use the dress as the subject of your sentence.
The dress is well, the dress is red.
All right, good. Yes. So far, again, it's for practicing, so it's good and it's enough. What about the cookies?
The cookies have a chocolate money.
Okay, peanut, right? It's going to be like
Peanut, sorry.
Good, don't worry. What about the other one? Sorry, peanut. That's okay. Peanut or peanuts. The last one is the student. No, sorry, this is not the last one. What about for the student?
The student won a scholarship.
Okay, good. And now this is the last one about the teacher.
The teacher who, oh, well, maybe oh, I'm not sure. The teacher could be the teacher who worked or maybe the teacher who is freelance too.
Okay, and here remember, you're not going to use who yet, so directly the verb, then you're going to use who to connect, but it's good.
Okay.
Who is, one more time, please. The teacher is?
The teacher is a freelance too.
Okay. And remember, if it's going to be a profession, you're going to say freelancer, right? Like in the last part with ER. Good, great. So I think it's working good. Again, the only thing you're going to do now, Michaela, please join these two sentences into one sentence using which or who. All right, let's do it, please.
I want, oh, I need to write.
Yes, please. You're going to write it down below each the two sentences that you have. Down below them, you're going to write the combination of the two sentences, please, Michaela. All right, and you can copy and paste and just eliminate the word and use who. All right, it can be just like that. Now, I'm going with you. This is your scanning. So let's read, please, the combination of your ideas.
Okay, teacher. I only read the combination, right?
Yes, it's enough with the combination directly.
I ran with the girl who has long hair. He loves the song which is in Spanish. He plays with a friend who wears glasses. She fixes the car which is new and red.
Great, thank you very much. So good. Again, sometimes they're going to give other suggestions because, again, we are practicing and mainly our main purpose is to combine those words. Sometimes it's not going to be the best context. Sometimes we're not going to use the best words over here. But the idea is that it's clear that we are combining this word, right, the girl, plus the correct relative word that it's going to be who, and the rest of the idea that it's going to be the complement for that idea. Here you have the same. Here, of course, it's not going to be the same, right? If you say he loves Spanish, all right? So that's a suggestion that again, Google is not always going to give the best corrections because the context has to be important, all right? But here, the sentence is correct. So he loves the song, which is in Spanish, all right? Because the meaning is very different to just saying, right, he loves Spanish. Here the same, a friend who, and finally, right? The car which. Okay, so this is the first part. And again, these rules are, Karen, and for all of you, when you have the word that you're describing as the subject of your sentence. How do you know that it is the subject? Because after who, you have the verb, who has, after which you have the verb, which is, all right? And here, which is, and who wears, right? That's how you know that you are using the adjective clauses as a subject clause. Because again, you have a verb. It's going to be different if you have another subject, and that's going to be for a different class, but now I'm going to give you a glance to that. Okay, so far, I don't know if you have any questions about this one, Karen. Let me know, please.
No, teacher.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue with you, please, Lucia. Let's read the combination.
Professor, I had an issue. I don't know why. Maybe it's my internet or something that my drive is like frozen. But I
All
can
right.
do oral. Yeah.
Good. Yes, let's do it, and then you're going to write it, please.
Yeah.
All right. So how would it be number one?
I found the keys. I found the keys which are new.
Okay, exactly. And directly you can read the combination, right? So it can be, I found the keys which are new, right? Good. What about number two?
I was invited to the festival, which is in Belgium.
Good, very good. And number three?
She met the girl who is the actress of this play.
Good, very good. And the last one, remember also here? Yeah, go ahead.
She discovered the guilty or the person who was guilty, Francisco Perez.
But if you say that one, actually, it's going to be a little bit different because Francisco Perez, then it's going to be an extra information with a comma, right? So it's better just to keep the practice if you say directly the guilty person, all right? She discovered the guilty person who, right, was Francisco Perez. And that's just for the purpose of practicing, because what you said, actually, it's a very good way of doing it. She discovered, right, the person who was guilty. So your example would be, she discovered the person, and then the person was guilty. And if you realize there, guilty is working as an adjective, right? That's why it's not going to be working a different way. Okay, just that one, Lucy. I don't know if you have any questions so that you can write the examples now or the combinations.
No, it's okay, teacher. I'm gonna refresh my internet because it's bad.
Good.
We're ready.
Good. Thank you, Lucia. I'm working now with you, Micaela, please. Let's read your 4 ideas that are together now.
I want the dress which is red. He liked the cookies which have chocolate and peanuts. I am not sure if it's have or had or had.
In both cases, it is going to be correct. Again, here Google is correcting because here you have past and Google is saying, so here you have to use past, right? But if you analyze, if you are talking about a present situation and you say, hey, I like the cookies that have chocolate and peanuts, it's correct because you're talking about the cookies that are still there in the present, but you liked them before. All right, but in both cases work, all right? But if you want to be very precise, you can use past in both ideas, all right? But it's not going to be a mistake. It's also correct in grammatically speaking, Micaela, in both cases, present or past here.
Okay, 3, he is the student who won a scholarship. They met the teacher who is a freelancer too.
Great. Thank you very much, Micaela. There you go. Okay, very easy. Again, if you're going to have any questions, let me know. And that goes for the 3 of you girls. So easy, right? That's easy. Now, we are going to practice that with something else. And again, I told you that we're going to cover the 4 of them, but this is the main. So if this that we just did is clear for you, then the lesson is clear for you. All right, it means that you understood the lesson and it's good. But now we're going to do something extra. And that something extra is referred mainly to whom, okay? It's not something we're going to practice, but whom is something we're going to do just to have an idea of the difference between who and whom, and between which as a subject and which as an object. So far, we only used which as a subject, and we used who, because who works with subjects. But now we're going to use whom. Whom works only with objects, and which can work with objects, and it has a rule when you use an object with a preposition. Okay, that is very, very interesting. So let's take a look at that. Okay, again, it's not going to be the main thing for today, but let's try to have a first approach. Let's read whom, please, Karen.
Okay, whom extra? She is looking for a person. They are looking about the person. She's looking for a person who that they are talking about.
Good, very good. So here, as you can see, now we are using the object that we're describing as the object of the second idea. And that's how you know that this is an object. Also, how do you know? Because after whom, you have a subject. You don't have a verb. So whom is the subject, sorry, the object of your description. All right. Now, it can happen in both cases, and I'm going to give you just a couple of examples here. I'm going to write in for you, and you tell me if you have questions so that you can also write examples with this. In this case, it's only going to be one example, okay? But it's going to be a longer example so that you can tell me if it's clear for you. So talking about objects, let's start with a very first and very easy idea, right? I was talking about that career, that major, or the major, let's say directly. Okay, I was talking about the major. And you know, when we're saying major, we're talking about career. Then the second part, it's also going to be with the major as the object, right? So you can say, I was learning, let's say, yes, or they, let me think of a possible verb. Okay, they said that, okay, they said, I'm thinking the way to have this as the object without using any other connector. All right, so I know what we're going to say. We learned things about the major. Okay, so here we're using two prepositions, but this is going to be the most important one, okay, the second one. And you're going to see why. So that's the first one. And the second one, again, we need to use a person that's going to be she, all right, had station with that guy or with the guy, we're going to say, and then we need the guy as the object. So we're going to say something like they were having a fight with, or in order to use a different preposition, let's use a different verb then. They were talking to that guy. Okay, I don't want to use the same preposition, so let's use two. And here's the guy and the guy. Okay, now what's going to be the combination? It's going to be the same, but you're going to have only one major change. That it's going to be the word that you're going to use, right? So here, this is a person, so you have to use who. Here, the major who. Now you just copy and paste this one. This is very easy. And one way is just like that. But the rule says that if this is the object and not the subject of your adjective clause, to recognize that one, I'm going to change this. This is the adjective clause, who. It means that the most formal option and the best option is not who, it is whom. All right, so I was talking about the major whom we learned a lot of things about. So this about is for this object over here, but you have two possible places for about, okay? This is also you have to know. It can be at the end, or it can be before the clause, okay? Over here. So you can say, I was talking about the major about whom we learned a lot of things, or I was talking about the major whom we learned a lot of things about. All right, both are going to be good. And this sounds weird, but this is more formal when the preposition is before the clause. All right, you have two prepositions, but this is for the preposition for this one, for this action, for talk, and this is the preposition for learn. Okay, so are two different prepositions for two different actions. Here it is the same. You have the idea with a person. Okay, so that's why it's a good idea to have first the two complete ideas together. And you copy and paste the next one, right? So the guy here, you're going to have, yes, and actually here, in order to use, yes, actually here I'm making a mistake, right? Because I thought I was talking about the mayor, right? Not the major. So we're going to make that change. Let me please make that change over here, the mayor. And here we are going to change this one to have an object. Okay, we're going to keep this here to have this example as well. All right. So the same rule, right? Here you have with the guy whom. In both cases we have people, because here I changed the word, but we're going to make one with which, or it's going to be only with objects. But here we have two people, so it is the guy whom they were talking to. And the same logic, right? To can be at the end, all right? Or to can be where before it. Okay, over there. So it's going to be the same. She had a conversation with the guy whom they were talking, or she had a conversation with the guy whom they were talking to. Okay, and one more time, both are going to be correct. Now, I'm going to copy and paste the exact example, but instead of mayor, because it was my mistake thinking that it was mayor, I'm going to go work with major, and major is going to be the career. So here it is going to be which, and the rule is exactly the same. Okay, I was talking about the major about which we learned a lot of things, or I was talking about the major which we learned a lot of things about. Okay, major in this case, it's a profession, it's a man, right, or a girl, and here major is going to be a career, and it's an object, that's why we use which. But as you can see, in both cases, the rules are exactly the same. If they use a subject after who, the best option is whom. If you use a preposition at the end, it can be at the end or it can be before the clause. And if you use it before the clause, it is going to be more formal. And both rules work for people, whom, and for objects, which. All right, now I want to know if you have any questions so that we can practice a little bit about this. Yes, Lucia, let me know, please.
Yeah, Professor, I couldn't identify the difference between the use of whom and who exactly.
Who is for subjects. It works as a subject. If you identify what you did here, I'm going to copy your partner's example, Lucia, and you're going to see the difference here. All right, so this is an example with who. What is the biggest difference? After whom you have a subject, after who you have a verb. Who is the object of your sentence, and how do you know that? Because if you read the idea, this object is receiving the idea. Okay, we learned a lot of things about the mayor, so this is receiving the action. When the person in this case receives the action, you have to use whom. But when the person performs the action, you use who. All right, and that's it. And again, and how do you recognize? Again, if you have a subject after the clause, you have to use whom. If you have a verb after the clause, you have to use who. Okay, that's the main difference. If it receives or if it performs the action, Lucia. In the case of which, it's the same, but you don't change which, right? You always use which. So you only need to be careful with the prepositions. That's the only thing. All right, I don't know if it helped Lucia, or you have any other questions about who.
Yes, now it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. Now you're welcome. So if it's clear, please, let's also work with examples ourselves. Only two, please, girls. And try to do the things that I did. Try to write this idea, okay, the second idea. Remember, do the same, okay? Follow the same steps. First idea with the person or the object at the end. The second idea, the same, with the person or the object at the end, but please try to have a preposition, okay? Because if you have a preposition, you're going to be able to work with these rules that I'm telling you about. Okay, so in the first part, it doesn't matter if you don't have a preposition, but try to have a preposition in the second sentence. And then you join the two ideas like this. Okay, also here, if you recognize, you also have a preposition. Okay, try to do it. If it's not possible, okay, but try to practice with that so that you can see the possibilities of using prepositions with whom and with which. All right, let me know if you have any questions. If not, we're going to have one more time, let's have also 3 minutes or 4 to work 2 examples, please. One with whom, one with which, and both of them have to work with objects. Okay, as in the examples that you see here. All right, let's do it, please. Okay, we're going to have 2 more minutes, please. And remember, we need to have these 3 elements per example, right? The first sentence with the object that it's general, the second object with one more time, sorry, the second sentence with the object one more time, but trying to use a preposition, and then the combination. And the combination is copy, paste, but you have to use the correct word to connect the ideas. You delete the repeated words, and you place the preposition in the correct word. All right, in the correct place, sorry. And the same for the next example, please. Okay, so I'm starting this 2 minutes now. All right, so we are over there, the second minute. Let's take a look at what you got. And remember, please, with this, we're finishing the lesson. We're going to read some examples to reinforce this knowledge. We're not going to learn about whose, because now we're not going to have the time. We have another activity that is going to be more important for practicing. And it's not part of this lesson. Even these examples are not part of this lesson, but it's important that you can start seeing the difference so that when we can get to see these examples and this lesson, it is going to be easier and we're going to work with more complex examples as well. All right, and we have 2 more lessons actually about this topic. One about objects that we're practicing now a little bit, and the other one about restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. It means when we use comma and when we don't use comma, when we use adjective clauses. All right, and it's related to the object only that we are describing. But let's take a look at what you got. All right, you should have those examples. We're going to see how you're doing. And according to that, we check. All right, good. So I have yours. This is yours, Lucia. So let's work with your example, please, Lucia.
All right. She was analyzing the exams. We found new points in the exams. So she was analyzing the exams, which we found new points.
Okay, now let's see what's missing here. Remember that if we are using prepositions over here, we have to use, right, the preposition before that. And I think let me see, because I don't see with your name over there. Give me 1 second. I just went up. Okay, good. So there, if you analyze again, what are we using here? A preposition. So first, let's identify. There are 2 very important things that you need to identify when you work with which or with who as the object. And it's if there is a preposition before the object. If there is one preposition before the object, as in your case, you have the preposition in, you always use that preposition. And remember, you have 2 possible ways to use it: at the end or before. And the best option is always going to be before. All right, so she was analyzing the exams in which we found new points. All right, it's always an obligation, because if we are not going to be using the preposition after that one, it is going to be incorrect. All right, so here you have which, and then you have the rest of the ideas. I think the same is going to happen over there, right? Good. So let's read one more time, please, that one with that change in the prepositions, Lucia, and just the combination.
Okay. She was analyzing the exams. We found new points in the exams. She was analyzing the exams in which we found new points.
Perfect. Very good. What about the next one, the second example?
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Juan asked the authority. One. The news talked about the authority. Two. And Juan asked the authority about whom the news talked.
Very good. Yes. Only one, I think here, the only, let's say, recommendation is the pronunciation of this word. Remember that the K, it's strong, but it's not strong enough to be a T or a D. So if it's not a T or a D, it's only going to be T, right? So it's going to be asked, like a little T at the end. Let's try to repeat that one, please.
Asks.
Asked. Exactly. It's a little bit difficult. This is hard. The ones with K are the harder to pronounce. All right. Just have that little T at the end, and little by little, again, when you're fluent, you don't make that more noticeable. But this is just a practice. All right. That's the only thing here. This is working good. You have the preposition about that is next to authority, right? And also this pronunciation is going to be more like O, and the TH like T. So it's going to be authority. Let's try to repeat that one as well, please.
Authority.
The authority. Good. There you go.
And
here
could be also Juan asked the authority who the news talking about, right? Also.
Yes, if you have the preposition, it can be at the end as well. So you can place about at the end of that one. All right, good. Here, of course, it's going to be considered a mistake because we don't know what authority we're talking about. And Google wants to correct this only to authority because authority is referred to a noun. But here we're talking about a person, right? That's why this combination is not going to be corrected because we know that the authority, it's a person because you're describing the person afterwards with whom. But yes, the authority can be with about at the beginning or at the end of that clause. So that's it. On my side, that's it. Lucia, I don't know if you have any questions about using relative clauses as objects of your pronouns or of your nouns, sorry.
At this moment, I think it's clear, Professor.
Good. If you get to have any questions, you can let me know. And remember also that this is just an introduction because the main topic was the previous one, using them as subject. That's very easy. This is also not complicated, but just be careful when you use prepositions, okay? When you use prepositions, always be careful because you need to use the preposition one more time. If not, again, it's going to be a mistake. And it can be before or afterwards. And sometimes the best option is always going to be before. Okay, just that one, Lucia. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good. Now I'm working with, let's see, this is yours. No, I think you don't have yet yours. Or is this yours? Michaela, I think you have it, right? This is the one. Yes, let's read your examples, please, Michaela.
Okay. I love the song. He works a lot to write the song. I love the song. Which he works a lot to write, I think. Maria is preparing the report. They are waiting for the report. Maria is preparing the report for whom they are waiting for. I like the documentary. They learned a lot about the documentary. I like the documentary about whom they learned a lot.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Good, you have 3 examples. All right, that's good. We needed 2, but you have 3 and it's better. I only have a few observations, but in general, I think it's great. We only need to change some words, Michaela. For example, here, to is not a preposition, right? How do you know? Because to write is actually a purpose, and this is infinitive, okay? And when you use infinitive, this is not considered a preposition. Okay, why? Because you cannot change the place of to. To is always going to be before right. Okay, so it is not a preposition. So now the next thing is that remember that you actually, if you want to work with this correctly, you only copy paste.
I think that's your internet connection, teacher.
Okay, yes. Let me know, can you hear me better now, girls?
Yes,
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to try to explain one more
I think
time.
that you have numbers.
Good, but let me know. Yes, again, I know I'm having some problems, but I want to see if now it's better. Let me know, please, how you can hear me, girls, in general.
Now it's better, teacher.
Okay, great, very good. So I disconnected everything that is not my computer. So I was saying, and it's good. It's good that you let me know because sometimes I don't see any message. So, Michaela, I was telling you, to here is not a preposition. This is infinitive, right? So he works a lot. Why? What's the purpose? To write the song. All right. Or this is the action. So if it's an infinitive, it is not a preposition. All right.
Teacher, again.
All right. Let me see, please, what I can do. I don't know what's happening.
Teacher.
Got it. I can hear you also.
So it's with all of you, right? Hey, Lucia, can you hear me the same, or is it bad my connection, or how can you hear me?
Sorry, I think the bad connection is for Karen, from Karen, because I can hear all of you.
Okay, yes, it must be in that way. Karen, yes, I see that your connection is bad now. Yes, I thought it was mine, but I need your feedback, girls. Okay, yes, she left. I mean, she's going to be back because yes, I just saw the her network, all right, signal, and it was red. So if you can hear me, then it's good because I need to give you now my feedback in Kahela. So one more time, okay? To be sure that this is good, this is the only thing that you have to do, Michaela. Copy, paste, okay? In writing and also on your mind. So I love the song, right? I love the song, copy. He works a lot to write the song. But here you are using to write. But you don't need to use to write here because again, this is not a preposition. This is a verb. And the verb is always going to be at the end. Okay, and again, because this is infinitive and it is not a preposition. So one more time, we're talking about the song. Now we have the song one more time. And the preposition to recognize that one, Michaela, it's going to be before the object. Okay, so this is not one more time a preposition. This is the infinitive for this verb. So love the song, which he works a lot to write. All right, he works a lot or to write the song. All right, it's working good. But again, it was a little bit confusing because of the placement of that verb. All right, but I think it's working correctly. But this is going to be one example, okay, with which. Here, Maria is preparing the report. This is also one object. And one more time, the object, waiting for, good. Now here you can place for in two different places, right? So this is correct. It can be Maria is preparing the report for whom? But again, if you realize here, Michaela, you're not talking about a person. You're talking about the report. Okay, you need to focus on the last thing that you're talking about. You're describing the report. So you cannot use whom because whom it's only for people. Okay, in the example that here, and it was a mistake on my part, but I changed this to mayor, right? Because mayor is a profession and it's a person, right? The mayor of your city. Here, the guy. And here you have major. This is a career, right? So this is an object. But with the first two, we can use whom, because this is a person and this is a person. And with major, we use which because this is an object, all right? And in your case, your sentence is also about an object, Michaela, right? If you realize you're talking about the report, so it's an object. So whom, it's going to be incorrect. You have to use which. All right, it has to be which. Maria is preparing the report for which they are waiting. All right, and here the same. The documentary is an object, and you're talking about this object, right? So here you cannot use whom, it's going to be incorrect. It has to be which. So they like the documentary about which they learned a lot. And here it is going to be like this. All right, so first, let me know if you have any questions, Michaela, and then I'm going to ask you one thing. Let's try to write one example, but this time try to write it with whom. And to write it with whom, you need to have a person in the last part. And remember, it can be the person itself, like the girl, or it can be the profession of the person. Mayor, teacher, engineer, any profession, but it has to be a person. Let me know if you have any questions, please.
I think now it's clear.
Okay.
I'm going to try. Maybe I met the lawyer. They was talking with the lawyer.
Go ahead, please.
I met the lawyer whom they was talking.
Sorry, good. Only two details there. It's good. Only two details. Remember, they is not was. It's going to be they were, right?
Oh,
they
they
were talking. And then you need a preposition. If you don't say the preposition in your combination, it's going to be incorrect. So you need to say, right, I met the lawyer about whom they were talking, or to whom they were talking, right? So with talk, you have two prepositions, to or about. You have to use that preposition before the clause or after the clause.
Okay.
All right, so let's repeat one more time, please. It's going to be, I met the lawyer about whom they were talking.
Okay, I met the lawyer about whom they were talking.
Perfect. Okay, very good. Now, just to be sure, please, we're going to write that one, Michaela, to be ready with all the steps that we need, and that's going to be it. All right, I don't know if you have any final questions.
It's clear. Thank you, teacher.
Good. No, you're welcome. There you go. And now we're going to work with you. This is yours, Karen. Let me know if you can hear me well, please, Karen.
Yes, teacher. No, yes.
Okay, good. Now, let's read, please, your two examples.
Okay, he was driving with a man. They were learning how to drive well about the man. He was driving with the man whom they were learning how to drive well about. They love the song. He listens to the song. They love the song which he listens to.
Thank you very much, Karen. Good. Let's work first with the second one. All right. I think we're working good. In the first one, only one detail I want to verify, but perhaps it's because of the amount of words that we got, but we're going to see something. Okay, so here, object, good. This is going to be a preposition, yes. So they love the song which he listens to. And in cases like listening, because they are always together, sometimes it's better to leave it in this way. Right? But only because listen, it's always followed by to, and sometimes it's not going to be considered as a separate preposition. All right? Talk can be separate from to, from about, but listen is never separated from to. All right? So this can be an exception. Sometimes it can be placed before, but listen is one of those very interesting exceptions because it is always next to. They are like only one word. All right, it doesn't happen with other prepositions. So this is correct. You have which for sung, and it works very well. All right, now only one thing that I have to verify here. So I was driving right with the men. Good. Here, this is plural, right? So many people, the men, they were learning how to drive well. And here, I feel that this is going to be a not that good. Why? Because let's try to understand. They were learning how to drive well about the men, right? But I feel that this is like extra and it's not connecting very well with the idea. Because what do you mean when you say here about the men? It's not that clear to me.
In this case, how to drive by no. They are learning how to drive. I don't know how to say, but they are looking, I don't know, the man, and they are learning how to drive.
All right, in this case, but actually it's not going to be like this because it feels like this is actually not here. Because usually, and let's see how we use learned over here, right? Here you can learn a lot of things about something, right? You can learn, for example, about English. You can learn about technology, right? So you learn about something, and that's what you learn, right? But when you say here learn, then you say how to drive. Actually, that's your main idea, to learn how to drive. But when you say about the men, it's like they are not learning how to drive. They are learning about the men because the men are perhaps very intelligent men and they are learning from them. But that's going to be then a different preposition. You're going to use from them, okay, from the men, because they are teaching them, all right? So perhaps changing the preposition is going to work better, but let's see how it works. It says they were learning how to drive well from the men. Okay, I think that's an alternative. Okay, we're going to see if it's going to work in a good way, but we use from when you use a person as a reference and you're learning from that person about a topic. All right, and here it would be he was driving with the men whom, right, they were learning how to drive well from. And again, in this case, we are seeing that change because from is going to be referred to the person that is teaching something to someone. Okay, so you learn something or you learn about something from someone. Okay, those are going to be the prepositions. That will be my recommendation and correction over there, Karen. I don't know if you have any questions about that.
No.
Okay, good, very good. Thank you very much then. So we're going to be finishing the class by the following. Again, we use some extra time in this, and I believe it's good. It's better to spend time with this exercise. Again, even though this is something extra, I believe that it's hard, and it's good that we use a little bit of time to learn about whom. Okay, so whom and which can be used with objects. And you have to be careful when you work with objects because objects can be followed or can be preceded by prepositions. And when you have prepositions, you have to use those prepositions. All right. Now we are only going to read about whose. We are not going to practice again because it's not today's topic and because the time is not going to be enough to practice whose. All right. Let's read about this, please, Lucia. Whose?
Whose? Extra. That's the dog. The dog's paw is hard. That's the dog whose paw is hard.
Good, thank you. So yes, Lucia, do you have any comments about this?
No, teacher, just inside comments.
Okay, good. So whose, it's for possession. Now we are not going to learn this. All right, we have a different lesson for this one, mainly for which, whom, and whose. But here, the only thing that you have to know is that whose is used for possession. because you're talking about the dog's possession. Okay, so you can say the girl whose house is red is over there. All right, so the girl has a house that is red. So you don't say that, you say directly the girl whose house is red. The person whose dog is on the street. The teacher whose class, right, starts in 5 minutes. So someone's possession. It can be a person, it can be an object, it can be an animal, as you can see here. All right, but again, that's extra. The most important things are the first thing that we practice and the second thing because it's a little bit hard. And again, let's start with who and whom, and this is going to be just reading, please, to get this for sure. The last one was very short, so we're going to do it also with you, please, Lucia. Only the first 2 set of examples. Let's read those 2, please.
Just read, right?
Yes, correct. Just reading, please.
All right. Sentence 1. He saw the person. The sentence 2. The person was in the party. Result. He saw the person who was in the party. He saw the person, the first one. Mary was in a relationship with that person. Sentence 2. Result. He saw the person with whom Mary was in a relationship with.
Perfect, right? So just a question here, Lucy, a very, very quick question. What is the difference between the first set of examples and the second set of examples? How can you explain the difference between these 2 results? He saw the person who was in the party and he saw the person with whom Mary was in a relationship.
Yeah, like we learned what that we learned already. The first one indeed is the subject, and the other is more like an object.
Good. And just to practice, to recognize, what makes you think that the first one is the object, and without taking a look at the sentence, okay, let's pretend that this doesn't exist. All right, without that, just by looking at this, how do we know that here we have a subject in the clause and here we have an object in the clause? What are some elements that make us say that, Lucia?
Because the first the first is more like a, I don't know how can I explain more, that we are more directly talking about that, like that person that we already mentioned, for example, who was in the party. But we can see like the contrast with the other because it's the we can say that is not directly the person, because here also we talk about Mary. So the main object in the second could be Mary, but like the object of Mary, like the person, that's why it's with whom. I don't know if it's clear.
Good. Yes, I think it's a good approach. It's good. You can add just this information that can be even easier, but what you explained makes sense and it's correct. You can simply say but directly that when you see a verb after who, it means that is the subject, right? And you don't have any prepositions. So that's why we know that here this clause is working with a subject, right? And here we know that we're working with an object because after the relative word, we have a subject. It means that whom is not a subject, whom is an object. And as you said very well here, Mary is a very important person to mention. And also because we have a preposition either before the relative clause or at the end of the relative clause, right? So just because of that, all right? Here, because you have a verb, and here, because you have a subject and you have prepositions, is that you can notice that they are either the subject of the clause or the object of the clause, okay? Just that one, Lucia. I don't know if you have any questions about that.
Just one question, teacher, about the with. You put in parentheses because it's the just for didactic explanation, right?
Yes, correct. I had to show that with can also be before, and when you
Yeah.
place with over here, it can be formal. But yes, just for didactics, because you have to decide either with is going to be here or here. We cannot use it here, and we cannot use it with parentheses. That's correct.
And if we use before whom, is not with, of course, it's not with parentheses in there.
Exactly, and you don't have this last with, right? So the option would be he saw the person with whom Mary was in a relationship, and you don't use the last with, and the first with is without parentheses. That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you, teacher.
All right,
And
good.
just a little approach. Maybe it's a bad idea, but yeah, I was trying to check some similitudes with Spanish. In Spanish, we don't have that figure, right?
Yeah, at least to have the preposition at the end is not something that happens in Spanish. In Spanish, it's more common actually to have this first one. All right, it's like acerca quién or something like. Let me think of this. So the person con quién, right? So we use the first use. All right, like the person, la persona con quien Mary, right, estaba en una relación. But you don't use the last option. You don't use the preposition at the end in Spanish. In Spanish, this first option is the common one that you use, so you don't have that flexibility in that case.
And also in Spanish, we use just quién, right? No,
correct.
Here is who, and in the other is whom.
Exactly. We only use one word in Spanish that is going to be that one, and the placement of the preposition always before that word. Correct.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor.
It's great. No, thank you, and thank you for making that comment, that observation. It's important, right? Sometimes it's a good idea to have that difference, not in order to translate, but in order to see the differences that we have in languages, because we need to be careful, right? Remember that sometimes prepositions are even going to be different, or sometimes we use prepositions in Spanish that don't exist in English in that word. For example, near, right? Many people say near to something, but we don't say that in English, right? We say only near something, or the opposite. All right, but good. Let's go to the next part, and this is going to be for you, please, Karen. Let's read the next two, please, over here. We're about to finish.
Okay. Peter was talking about that girl. Sentence 2, that girl graduated from the school. Peter was talking about the girl who graduated from the school. Peter was talking about that girl. A dog barked at that girl. Peter was talking about that girl at whom a dog barked at.
Thank you again. So here we have two different sets, right? But it's the same as we saw here. In the first set of examples, Peter was talking about the girl, and the girl graduated from the school. Here, the girl is the subject, right? And here, Peter was talking about that girl, and here, a dog barked at that girl. Here, the girl is the object, and the results are different, right? But I'm going to ask the same question. Just by taking a look at the results, without that, because that's showing us the place of the words. But just with this information here, how do you know that the first one shows a subject clause? And how do you know that the second one shows an object clause? What elements can you identify to say that?
Well, for the first one, we know that that we need to use who is when the person, in this case the girl, performs an action, or the action, in this case the action is graduated from the school. And in the second example, we use who when, in this case, the person or the girl receives an action. In this case, he barked
Great, exactly, great. I think it was even better than my explanation here. Karen, good, Great. One performs the action and the other one receives the action. And how do we know again? Because graduated is the verb that the girl is performing, and here to be barked at is the action that the girl is receiving, right? So that's also very good. And again, if we cannot explain that one, we can only say that there's a verb after who and there is a subject after whom. And that's why we know that who is the subject and whom is the object, complementing with your idea, Karen, that I think it's great. So again, I don't know if you have any questions up to this part, Karen. We'll have one more slide that is going to be with Michaela, but I'm finishing with you. So what do you say? Do you have any questions?
No, teacher. It's okay for me.
Good. Thank you very much. And the last one, this is going to be for you, and we finish with this, please. Michaela, let's read this one, please.
Okay. He saw the house. Sentence 2, the house was very expensive. Result, he saw the house, which was very expensive. Peter was talking about the car. Sentence 2, the car appeared in our favorite movie. Result, Peter was talking about the car, which appeared in our favorite movie.
Very good. Great. Thank you, Michaela. Now, here I have a question. Perhaps it's not going to be the case, but is any of these results talking about an object clause? It means that the main object, for example, the house or the car, they are the object of the sentence. Do we have a case here, or are these both cases, Michaela, with subject clauses? It means that the object is like the subject of the idea. What do you say?
I think the two sentences are subject clauses.
Correct. Good. And just by looking at the results, how can you recognize that? Just by using the results for the explanation, Michaela, how do you know that in both cases, which is correct, how the house and the car are the subject of the sentence? How can you identify that?
Because after which we have a verb.
Exactly, right? In both cases, we have the verb to be in past and we have appear in past. So good. That's it. Again, I don't know if you have any questions about this one, Michaela, including who, whom. Is that clear? Do you have any comments? Let me know, please.
It's clear to me, teacher. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you very much. Now, I know that today was very theoretical. All right. Today we only wrote. I was thinking of having an activity as well, but that's going to be for Monday. All right. We spent some extra time working on those extra sentences. But again, I believe that it was necessary because there were some doubts, right? And there were some ideas that were not clear. So it's better to spend time over there than perhaps leave it for later on. Okay. But I believe that it's clear, at least in a good way. And we're going to finish here then, girls. I'm going to share 2 surveys today, please. Remember that we are in the 6th class. It means it's the middle of the month, the middle of the module. The first one that I'm sharing now, that you can see it right away, let's answer that one, please. That is for this class. Okay, this is just for this class. So finish that one, and I'm going to send the one that is the midterm or the satisfaction survey. Okay, good. I think the 3 of you completed that one. And now this is for the whole first part of the course. It means for the first 2 weeks. All right, only 2 questions, but that's for the first 2 weeks. All right, and with that, that's it. Remember, please, we have until today, 11:59 p.m. to complete the assignments and until Monday to finish with the quiz. All right, if you don't have any more questions, that's it. And I hope you have a great night and a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.
Teacher, sorry, until
Yes.
Monday or until Sunday, the exam?
No, Sunday, Karen. Sorry, yes, I meant to say Sunday. I might have made a mistake. It's until Sunday, 11:59 p.m.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Good. No, you're welcome. Thanks for making me notice that. So that's it. Have a good weekend. See you on
Also,
Monday.
the assignments is until till today, right?
Today, correct. Until today.
Okay.
All right, good.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good night, girls.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you for your time, teacher. Bye bye.
See you. Bye-bye.